Thank you and welcome everybody. We have been looking very much forward to this evening. This is very exciting for us as well to teach you a little bit about how to get a higher salary, because one of our goals is of course to empower women and also make sure that we have much more women in leadership position. And the art of negotiation is of course one of the skills you need to do that. So before we dive into all the tips and tools, we're just going to go a little around the audience and hear if some of you would like to share. Why do you deserve a fair salary? I don't get a salary. We have our own company, so we get a fee. But I can say that I deserve a fee because I empower women to reach their goals and make them reach, get the desired salary they want. So Laura, why do you deserve a fair fee?
I deserve a fair fee because I help women to bring out the best of themselves and also to discover their passion and make a career and make a living from there.
Anyone wants to share why they deserve a fair salary? So why did we do this exercise? Of course, because you want something, you have to say it out loud. So if you don't want to do it now, you have a chance later on to find out why you actually deserve it, because that's the step number one. So we're going to talk about why is it so difficult for most of us to actually make the ask. We find a lot of us have really internal conflicts when we're going to ask. So that we are going to give you some tools on how to mitigate that. We're going to give you some tips to how to communicate really powerful. And what if you get a counter argument? That can be really intimidating if you're sitting across from someone and they come with a counter argument and you say, what should you say? And then, of course, who should you know? Because that's as important as the rest. So let's begin. So why was it that we find this topic very interesting? Laura and I have, of course, been on both sides of the table. I was running an HR department, building an HR department for an IT startup. And when you do IT startups and run an HR department, everything from the legal side to the leadership development side to the establishment in other countries, you have the whole thing. And I find that job extremely fun, and I thought it was really rewarding until I saw all the other salaries. I had full insight in all the other managers' job. I had insight into my CEO's salary. I had insight into everything. And I was looking at my own salary, and I thought, what is happening here? I'm not even earning as much as they are, and I work as hard, and I have a huge job here to actually, I was the one that was recruiting all the IT people into the company. I made sure the culture was viable, that they stayed, because everybody was fishing for the best people, and we built this amazing culture so people stay. So I had to negotiate that salary. I couldn't really live with myself if I didn't have a salary that matched all the others. So I did a lot of work, and we're going to give you some of the tips from that. I did a lot of preparation, and I had this negotiation with the CEO, with my boss. And I was really, really nervous. And one of the things I was nervous for was that he wouldn't like me. And he thought I was too pushy and all kinds of things. But I had prepared, and one of the things I prepared myself for is I can't live with myself if I don't negotiate this, because this is ridiculous. I'm working so hard and not earn the same as the rest. So I negotiated my salary. I got what I wanted. But when I left, I felt really, really bad. And I thought, what is going to happen now? He probably hates me. Because he had all these arguments, that you have for why I shouldn't have a salary. And then the next day, he comes into my office, extremely happy that he's giving me this salary raise. And he was including me in all kinds of stuff. What I found out was that because I negotiated so hard, he suddenly really respected me. It wasn't because he didn't respect me before, because he hired me and was happy for what I did. But that negotiation actually put me one step higher in his ranks. So sometimes we walk around with all these internal things and think that something is going to happen, and then we have a completely different outcome. And what I have observed is that we have one man, but what I've observed is that my male colleagues never had that problem. They were completely ruthless. I have men coming into my office saying, Lena, I need a higher salary. I've just had a baby. Do you know how much a baby costs? You have to give me more. And you think, what? They don't think that someone don't like them because they ask for a higher salary. They ask for all kinds of reasons. So this is why we have, this is why we think this is really relevant, because we coach women, we work with women, and we see a lot of women have exactly the same problems as we've had in the past.
We want to show to you some statistics because numbers are important. And I don't know if this is a survey that Libo did, and it's about, they have a huge network of millennials, and they focus here in women, so this survey was only for women. And what is amazing is like 83% of them believe that it's really important to negotiate your first job salary. 83% of them also believe that if you don't negotiate this first salary, you will be earning less money through your career. However, look at this. The same women, from the same women, only 21% of them negotiate their first job offer out of the school. So it's clear for us that something is happening. We have some other interesting numbers, and I'm just going to read some of them, but here you have them. We also have 55% of these women saying that they don't negotiate because they don't want it to be like pushy. We also have a 58% saying that they don't have the information of knowledge to go through this negotiation. And also 88% of them say they will negotiate if the job offer won't disappear. So that's why we are here, because it's clear to us that we know that we have to negotiate. However, we don't do it because we have fear, because we don't want to lose the job, because we don't want to lose the opportunity.
So yeah, negotiation, it sounds really good what Laura said. You know, we all know that. This is the two parts sitting there, opposite side of the table. And of course, they have common goals, or they might not have common goals, but we believe it's an equal situation. In real life, most companies have already a percentage increase the bosses can, they can have. So this is not actually, we're not even starting on even ground. Also, if you have your own company, the company might already have set a budget. So how do you negotiate your fee? Some companies do not always reward fairly, as I experienced. Some companies or some bosses find negotiation a sport. And what do I mean by that? That is, some bosses actually think it's really funny to negotiate. They actually think it's a part of their job that they find fun, because for them, negotiation is just something that they think is fun. It's like all other kinds of things they do. They also think it's a valuable skill. Like I experienced my boss, he thought there was a very valuable skill that he actually saw I could negotiate for myself. He knew I was negotiating salaries and all kinds of stuff for the company, but I could also negotiate for myself. Most companies are or should be interested in keeping the most valuable employees and promoting the best. So that's what we think. It's not always like that in the real world. So what is the situation for you? You want to be paid fairly, or you would like to stay in the company and you would like to advance. So you have that thing in your mind. You think this company is really great, so how can I stay but also advance and get paid fairly? Short term, you cannot afford to walk away. You might have a mortgage or family, or there's insurances, so you just can't walk away from the table, as we've heard so many times, just walk away. But sometimes it's not really realistic for all of us. You want to be recognized and appreciated, and having a fair salary is really something that I personally think I get recognized for if you are paid fairly. Or you want to earn the big bucks, right? So someone wants to get rich, and that's fair enough. So how can you do that? Well, preparation emotionally and factually is really, really important. It's all in the preparation. Don't think you can wing it. Some people can, but most people cannot wing a negotiation. So what is your real life situation? If you could either just write down a little for yourself, think about it, or talk two and two, what is your real life situation? It all depends on the situation. I think when we're a little further down, you can see when we come to counter arguments, it's something you need to prepare. I know they're not even allowed to ask. I think there's a law against that. Yeah, I think it's important for you to find out why is that important for you to talk about your family at the meeting. That's when you are preparing. What is important for them? Put yourself in their shoes, and maybe it's not relevant because they're not hiring because you're a mother, they're hiring you because you have some special skills. depending on the situation. They might hire you because you're a mother, I don't know, or becoming one. But so that's what you need to find out and prepare for that situation.
Let's just continue because otherwise time. So what is holding us back? And this is like a difficult question, right? And we can find so many different answers for these questions. However, Lina and I, after a lot of different research, we have found that this is because of the external and the internal barriers. So then the next question is, okay, so what do we need to attack first? The external barriers or the internal barriers? And again, this question. And this is so difficult, like answering the question about how was first, the chicken or the egg, right? Because the external barriers influence the internal barriers and vice versa. So to be honest with you, there is no right or wrong way to approach this. However, in Writing for Women, we believe that if we attack first these internal barriers, we will get rid of those external barriers. Let me give you more information about this. And of course, we have Sheryl Sandberg. She wrote this book about union, and she says, getting rid of these internal barriers is critical to gaining power. When we talk about external barriers, we are talking about social norms. And I'm sure that all of you are familiar with, we as a women, we have to be modest, we have to behave, we have to be likable, we have to be nice, and if we want to be moms, it's difficult because if you also want to work, you are leaving your kids, so you're being a bad mom. So we have so many different roles to play, and that is so difficult. Of course, we also have the company culture, and that is not helping us, and we also have the institutional barriers, and a lot of different things. And we're going to start here. However, we have something that we think is better. The internal barriers is your inner voice. And here, you can start making a change right away. I mean, now. Because this Lina was talking about this is all the things that you are telling to yourself. And again, I'm old, I'm very young. I mean, I'm from Mexico, I'm here in New York, this is like kind of scary, or blah, 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 blah. And you can just start telling to yourself a lot of different things. And you know what? That is not helping you, because you are transmitting that. At the moment that you are there, you are transmitting everything. Believe me, you are. So, some examples. No, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. All of this is really scary. I mean, it is. But this is only our inner voice telling us you can't. No, you can't do this. So, now it's your turn to find out what is your inner voice telling you. And you don't have to share, but it will be so amazing if you can just write down some examples. Because first step here is awareness. So if you are aware of this is that big step that you make today. So I will give you 2 minutes. I wanted to tell you, first step, be aware. Be aware of those inner voices that you have and make a list. And just when you have that list, on the other side, just put some awesome things about yourself. And just compare that list, okay? And you can do that later, not right away, but just do it, please do it, because you will find out that you are awesome, more than you think. Let's continue. Okay, so now we are here, right? We already talked about why it's so difficult for many of us to ask and negotiate, and we already know it's because our inner voice, and we also have the external barriers. Now, let's talk about tips to communicate in a more powerful way, because communication is everything in terms of negotiation. This is just like, a normal diagram that I'm sure you know, but just really quick. We have the sender, and I'm the sender, and I want to transmit a message, right? So I have an idea in my mind. And then there is the receiver, and I want to transmit that message. But between my message, there is a lot of channel limitation. And this channel's limitation, it could be background noise, maybe the receiver is thinking he's having a bad day, or maybe my voice is not that good, or it could be whatever, right? So between the idea that I want to transmit and the idea that the receiver gets, he's making his own or her own interpretation. So that's why it's really difficult to transmit the idea in the same way that you are thinking in this. So what can we do if we have all of this background noise? Well, we can use some powerful language instead of using vague language. How? So let's see some examples here. Imagine that you are with your boss and you want to talk with him about being promoted or making some steps ahead in your career. You can always say, well, I would like to advance at some point. Or you can be more assertive and say, my career goal is to be promoted at the end of this year. What can I do? Give me feedback, specific feedback. What should I do? Because I want to be manager next year, right? So you are being very, very assertive. You are not being rude, you are being assertive. You are asking for what you want. You can also say, I love this one. You know, I used to lead the performance review with the head of the call center at American Express. I was an internal consultant there for a couple of years. And when you are working in a company, it's all about going further, not achieving just the results, right? Because you want to be that high potential. So you can always say in your performance review to your boss, I reached the agreed goals. Or you can go further and say, I did set the bar really high, and I reached it, and I achieved more. So you are selling yourself in a better way. You are telling them, I'm doing more, right? So that's why I deserve a bigger bonus. When you want to present a plan, you can say, well, I was thinking that maybe instead of saying, I want to present you my plan, and it's about, and you just start talking. And finally, another example, I love this one because we're always like, well, I was wondering if, no, stop that. Just, I know that, you know. You know. So start using this powerful language this will help you to change the way that people look at you. And finally, we have another one. It's so powerful when you talk about facts. When we want to show something or when we are talking about something, we tend to say, I have heard, or I think, or in my opinion. It's different if you are using some facts, some statistics. I know, let me show you, facts are telling that these numbers show you that you have some background base that is helping you to make your point. And again, don't forget, everything is about context, okay? Everything is about context. Some do's and don'ts. First of all, you need to be you. So being authentic is very, very, very important because if you try to act like someone else, if you try to behave in a different way because you think it's better but you are not feeling comfortable, that is not going to last. So it needs to feel good. Then we already talk about, we will be talking about a strong ask. I will give you some examples. Looking around versus eye contact. This is very, very important because making eye contact is the first step to building empathy. If you cannot make that eye contact, you are not building that empathy. Lina will tell you about these passive postures versus power postures. I love this one. She will tell you about it. And too much, too little, too late versus moderate. I love this one. I want to ask you, what if you have 5 minutes or maybe 3 with the CEO of your company, do you know what are you going to say to him or to her? Are you prepared? Do you have this speech that you can sell yourself in only 3 minutes? Can you do that? If you don't, I really recommend you that you have that in mind, because sometimes, and I will tell you this story, my colleague, we were working in this company some time ago, and then she was in the elevator, and suddenly the CEO was there too. And she was like, freeze, like, I don't even know what to say. So she missed a huge opportunity there, because how many times do you have like 3 minutes to whatever with the CEO of your company? And you never know. So you need to be prepared always, because you never know when you will have those 5 minutes. Examples of a powerful ask. It's very strong when you go there and say, I want more responsibility. The project X is my dream project, and I want to contribute in this. So, very assertive, very straight talk. I'm behind of my salary. The latest statistics show, and then you have those numbers. I have reached the goals, and even more on Project X. That's why I'm asking you for, and then you go. Now it's your turn again. So write down your powerful ask. Whatever that you want to ask, it could be to your boss, it could be to if you're an entrepreneur, it could be to a possible investor, it could be a client, it could be anyone. I will say that's why it's very important to look at different sources, like salary.com, like Glassdoor, and you just make the match. If Glassdoor is telling you something, if salary.com is telling you something, and another source is like telling you something very different, there you go. So you have a consistent answer. So that is what you are looking for. More than I'm looking for a reliable source, because don't get me wrong, but it's kind of lazy, like I'm just going for this source. Do your homework. Have 5, 6, 7 different sources. And once you find a consistent number, there you go. That is your number, okay? That's a really great question. If you try to look at, as you said, the job, the name of the job is very difficult, but just try to look at responsibilities. If you take a look at the responsibilities, you can get a better idea about if this job is similar to this one.
Don't get too hung up in the right number or one number. Make a plan, prepare, because then you can go into a dialogue about the salary. And there's no doubt, as we talked about before, there's no wrong in saying, I hope this is a win-win situation. So, and then start from there if you really have done your homework and you don't know. So you don't get hung up on the numbers, because that will actually kill your negotiation strategy. All right, one thing I think you should think about is, don't be so afraid to ask your boss for advice. He or she is not your opponent. Some bosses are really bad, but luckily there's a lot of good bosses around. So don't be afraid to ask for an advice. If you don't know, ask her. Ask her, I've been thinking about this. I've been taking on more responsibility. What would you recommend? A lot of people like to help. And I think that's something we are so caught up in our inner voices, so we forget to ask for help. So why not just ask? The inner voice is, what can happen if I ask? Is this rude? Will he or she think I'm crazy, that I'm, think that I deserve more? Ask. It's very seldom I met someone who's actually where something happens because you ask for advice. And if you don't want to ask your direct boss, maybe ask a colleague or another one in the company. So, body language. So we've looked at all these statistics about how much does body language actually impact our communication. And we've seen 40%, we've seen 60%, we've seen 80%. We don't actually know what exact number. But one thing we do know is that if you want to make an ask, it's really important how your body language is. So you look convincing. Because I'm quite sure you have all the skills that it takes, but you also need to show it. So we have a few examples here of very strong positions. I don't know if any of you have seen the Amy Cuddy TED Talk. That's amazing if you haven't. Her mantra is, Fake it till you become it, not till you make it, until you become it. So how can you remember? Because a lot of times this is like learning to negotiate or preparing for this is like learning to ride a bike. There's so much we have to remember and then we forget. And one of the things that we tend to forget is how we sit. So how can you actually remember? Well, there's one woman, Madonna, has a song, say pose. And that's our mantra. So if we forget, if we slush, or if we're like, Madonna, okay, and we know. So maybe you want to remember us, but if you don't, remember her. So there's body language is a topic in itself, but we just wanted to give that to you. So look at those pictures, how she's sitting, and you have Oprah here. She has a very powerful body language, but she also looks quite relaxed. If for nothing else, pose. So we talked a little about awareness, your inner voice, and how to communicate more powerful, both verbally and with your body language. So what do we say when we get a counter-argument? Counter-argument can be extremely intimidating, and counter-arguments actually tap directly into our inner voice. It's like when someone gives us a counter-argument, it's like, I knew it, I knew this is what he or she was going to say. So, counter-arguments, what could they be? These are some of the few that we've heard. I have a very limited budget. Or, it's not up to me. Or he or she might say, I have never given such a huge rise before. You're not shy. That is really intimidating. Or, I cannot go back to HR or the CEO with such a demand. Or, if I pay you that much, you're almost earning the same as me, which is, what do you say? Or if I pay you that much, I will have to pay the same to your colleagues. All these arguments are extremely intimidating, and I'm sure you have some good examples. So how do you build up a counter-argument? Well, you have to keep, of course, your voice and your tone calm and professional, so we all know that. And I have to say, most people, it doesn't really matter if you're a little nervous. There's nothing wrong with being a little nervous. Don't freak out because you're nervous or you sweat a little. It's quite normal. We're all human beings. None of us are made of steel, so it doesn't really matter. And of course, pose. You know that for now. You will never forget to pose. So how do you build up a counter-argument? First, you acknowledge. So let's say I have a very limited budget. So you acknowledge that the person has a very limited budget. Then you have all the facts. That could be facts of the good job you've done, all your skills you have and your competences. It could be statistic. It could be all kinds of things. And then you ask for exactly what you want. And then sib it. Sib it. This is the biggest mistake a lot of people do. They keep talking and talking and talking. And this person who doesn't even have maybe not even heard the counter-arguments before or haven't even thought about it, don't have time to think. And there's nothing better than silence, because then the other person will start thinking and maybe even talking. And then you can start the dialogue. So really remember to keep quiet. When you've made your argument, you're probably sitting, with a very intelligent person, or maybe not, but whatever respect you have for the person, doesn't matter. Maybe you think you have to repeat it twice, but really remember to be quiet. You can use this trick in a lot of other situations. If you want something, let the other person think and speak then first. You don't have to speak all the time. You will not get a higher salary because you keep speaking. So what could examples of counter-arguments be? I have a very limited budget, so let's build up the argument. I know we have had to work smarter to work with budget cutbacks. Facts are, however, whatever you have done, and therefore I ask for. Very short, very precise. And then after that, sib it. It's not up to me. That's a really nice one. Those bosses who don't want to take responsibility for you, right? We know them. yeah, I would have loved to give you more, but it's not really up to me. So I know there are more people involved in this decision. That is the acknowledgement, so you don't. As I understand, you also think that the increase I'm asking for is reasonable. So already there, wow, caught on the wrong leg. Then the person has to say, no, I don't think you need it. Or they say, yeah, I think you're good. I have therefore prepared the facts for you, because he or she just said it's not up to me. So here's the preparation. What will the procedure be from here? I have never given such a huge rise before. And then I think you can put in some humor. And you can say, I'm really happy that I'm the first one you ever have to reward that much. Whatever, laugh. It doesn't have to be that serious. This is a real person you're sitting with, flesh and blood, and maybe they do have some humor, I don't know, but some people have. And then you, of course, start with your facts, and you know the drill by now. You're not shy. Again, that's why you hired me. Be a little cheeky. It doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be a very serious conversation, at least in the beginning. And then facts are, make it then come with your up. I would love for Laura to tell her story about a coaching client that she had that prepared herself for a job interview. I think that story is so amazing. So that I think you should share now, because that's really good.
Okay, here it goes. But first, I just want to add something. We just went through that process, my husband and I know it could be so difficult. I mean, being Latin, I totally understand. But what my husband did, and we just got the green card because of that, is he actually, thank you for that comment, because he did that. He did a lot of preparation, but bring numbers. In this year it's going to cost you this, and you also have to pay me a trip because I need to go to my country and I need to spend there 3 weeks, maybe 1 month, so I will need a hotel and this. And just try to be a really high potential and high performer. And once you get the visa, the green card, with those, once you have really great achievements and you have those numbers, you just go there and very assertive, very comfortable, just telling them that. And that works, I can tell you that. But I understand you. It's awful. So my story now. I had this client, she called me and she said, Laura, I'm calling you because I need your help. I'm about to have the most important interview of my life. She wanted to get the job in one of the most important hospitals in the city. And she said, they have this really strange interview process, which I don't understand. Because I know that I'm an amazing doctor, I have amazing technical skills, but this hospital cares a lot about the patient. So they want doctors that are able to build that empathy, that connection with the patient, and I don't think I can do that. I mean, my people skills, I just don't have. So I need your help, and yeah, that was true. So help me to create this list about the answers that they want to hear. So in this way, I'm just going to tell them what they want to hear, and then I just will get the job, and I will be happy, right? So I was listening to her and I said, yeah, we can do that. I mean, I will help you. However, what if you get the job for the wrong reasons and then maybe your personality is not going to be a good match with the company culture and maybe you won't be happy there. Would you like that? Maybe you have this image in your mind about this amazing hospital, and once you're there, maybe you're not going to be happy, because if they don't choose you, it's because you are not a good match. It's not because you are not prepared enough. So I suggest, what if we create an amazing list of your skills and your accomplishments, and at the end, if you are not happy with that, we just create a fake one. And she was like, okay, we can do that. And we create this amazing list. At the end, she was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even remember all of these awesome things about me. And I just helped her to go through different things that she has done, and she's amazing. And at the end, she decided to use her own list. So next week, she called me and she said, oh my gosh, I got the job being authentic. I mean, I cannot even believe it. So this is just an example for you. Like, sometimes we think we're not enough. Sometimes we don't think we're worth it, or we are not enough prepared, we don't know enough, and the list can go on. But if you just try to think in those things, in those skills that you have. And sometimes it's so useful to have your husband, your boyfriend, your best friend, your mom, your dad, that person who knows you to help you to create that list, because sometimes we forget all those amazing things that we have accomplished. Yeah. So now, okay, we already talked about what is so difficult for many of us to start talking about this negotiation process. Also try to communicate in some powerful ways. We talk about body language, we talk about powerful communication. Lina just gave us so amazing answers for those counter arguments. Now, let's talk about one of my favorite topics, relationships. I had this client, and she said to me when she called me, I'm ready to be the next vice president, but nobody noticed that. So I'm starting to doubt about myself because I think I'm ready, but they are not promoting me. So anyway, at the beginning I thought, okay, we will work in her leadership skills and maybe some technical skills, but you know what? It was very, very easy because she was ready. At the end, we discovered that it was all about networking. And in that company, networking, it was a very, very important tool to get promoted. So sometimes, she was a very, very high performer. She had a lot of potential, but she thought at the time, like working hard and only talking with her boss, it was enough. And you know what? It's not enough. It's not enough. In these big companies, you need to make sure that you have this really big network. You need to make sure that you are visible for those key people, because in that room, when they are talking about promoting someone, it's not only your boss who is talking about yourself. It's also those decision makers. So if you don't get visible, they don't know you, so they cannot talk about you. And there is nothing worse that people don't have anything to say about you. So make sure that you are making yourself visible. We work on her network, and at the end, she received 2 different offers, and she was promoted. So sometimes it's all about the connections that you make. Sometimes it's all about, making yourself visible. So why? To get the position, to get the project, to get the budget, or to get the salary that you want. Whom is all about the stakeholders, your boss, decision makers, mentors, sponsors, colleagues. A lot of people ask me about how can I find a mentor? Should I ask her, do you want to be my mentor? It's kind of weird, like if someone comes to the office and can you be my mentor? So I will say, for the mentorship thing, start getting visible to those people that you would like to be your mentors. That's the first thing. The second thing is start those conversations. If you don't start talking with these people, how can you expect them to be your mentors? And finally, ask them for advice. People never say no when you ask for advice. They always say yes. They always want to help. So if you start asking people advices, suddenly they are your mentors. How? Appreciate others, manage your boundaries is very important. Avoid gossiping, listen actively, ask authentic bragging. I also recommend I had also this client who was like, I don't even know what to say to my general manager. He was so nervous, because he wanted to make himself visible to this client, and he was there like, what should I say? Just 3 things. Tell me about your business. How can I help you? And what are your pain points? Period. So if you start asking people those questions, with this information, you can start getting noticed by these people, and you can start also understanding about the business and also about how can you help them and the pain points. And nobody asks these questions, and they are core. Where? I will say everywhere. Really everywhere, but you can always find these places: work, networking events, university, parties, family, neighbors. And Lina has this amazing story about networking. Can you share your story about, Percy?
Yeah, I could say that if you don't like networking, it might be at an event or at your company. I was one of those people who hated to network, and I really, really didn't like it. So when I came to New York, I had to network because I didn't know anyone. So when I was out networking, I gave myself this challenge that I had to receive at least 5 business cards. And when I received 5 business cards, I was allowed to go home. And that was an amazing reward for me that I could go home. The first couple of times I was so happy in the elevator. But then it suddenly, after half a year, it didn't go that quick for me. Anyway, suddenly I actually liked it and I stayed until the end. So give yourself a little reward, whatever it takes for you, and then you can learn to network.
We have this exercise. If you can write down, who do you need to show your work? Write a list of those key persons that have to get to know about you, that you need to make visible too. Write down those key people. It could be in your company, I don't know, HR, my internal client, maybe I'm working with marketing, right? Who should know about you?
There's nothing more frustrating than looking for a new job, especially if you don't have one. It's a very exhausting process. Just writing your resume is exhausting. Personally, I find that really annoying. So it is an exhausting project, a project to actually look for a new job. And if there's silence, you can follow up, put in your calendar, depending how eager you are to get the job. But I think also find different ways to follow up, call, or if it's a recruiting agency, if you can have a coffee meeting with them or write some compelling arguments. And if you don't really hear anything, you shouldn't use that recruiting agency. Maybe you should go directly to the company. Yeah. And some companies are not very professional in that respect, and I find it very disrespectful. Unfortunately, that is what we see, and you cannot change the world. You can change the world, I hope, for some points, but you cannot change their policies.
And also, it helps if you, at the end of the interview, you ask them about the process and timelines. And then if they call you, good. If they don't, you just forget about it.
Because it can really hurt our self-esteem if someone don't reply back to us, ignore us, or say no to us. And that's why you have to go back to the awareness of what is it my inner voice is telling me. And I know my worth. I know I'm really whatever. This is not personally. It might be the market that is bad, or I just haven't, I'm not with the right company. I'm not approaching the right company, whatever. Just don't let this hurt your self-esteem. That's really important. We all have some amazing supporters close by. Talk to those supporters. Don't listen to someone who doesn't reply back to you, right? He or she is not worth it anyway, so. So this is the end of today. We gave you a short overview of a recipe for how you can, do your homework, the stats, communicate in a powerful way, both body language and verbally. Prepare for the counter arguments. I think that's really, really important because they can be so intimidating. Have a powerful presence. Never leave the table without something, at least just something. And you might not want to stay anyway, but at least you got some extra vacation or whatever you got out of it. And then, of course, practice, practice, practice. And if you are nervous, practice with a friend, or ask if the friend has someone working in a different HR department that you might meet with and practice. And this is all about learning. This is not failing. And this is back to the whole where we started, the awareness process. This is nothing personal. This is not a personal thing. If you don't get the job, it's not a personal thing. You might be really disappointed because you want that job, but there might have been 10 other people who was, equally good or better. So just keep pursuing your ambitions. Who do you need to show your worth to? Who do you need to connect with? And the last one, if you for no other reason negotiate for all the women in the world, we really need to step up and show that we can negotiate and that we're worth it. So if you cannot find any other reason, make it a big, a cause in your life.